There was a phrase thrown around a ton last week, but I'll tell you what. Saturday night, that was Auburn being Auburn.
Listen, put me in the parking lot, with Bears, and I'll go out there and play. It don't matter.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's the morning after. Happy Sunday to all of you. It means we're joined by Montgomery radio vet Darrell Dapprich. Darrell, Auburn wins against Texas A&M 13-10, and we'll get into more of the details and the score and how Auburn probably should have had more points than they did, but it's not really about that. Right? It's when we talk about Saturday night, it was about Carnell Williams and how this team and how this fan base rallied around him.
Absolutely. And, it was a groundswell that started last Saturday. Even in a loss to Mississippi State, you could start to feel the pride, the love, the loyalty. It just started building and the excitement, right? And then it's just all week. It's building, and then it hits a crescendo last night with the crowd and how electric it was. Because, listen, all Auburn Nation and Auburn fans want is someone that they believe in and that they could get behind. That they were dying to rally around something and someone. They were thirsty. They were craving it. And Cadillac Williams provided that hope, provided that mantra of we believe in something, we're excited for something, and we're going to show it by pouring out love and affection and attendance. And that's what happened. Auburn was absolutely thirsty and craving that. And then you throw in the basketball game last night and the football complex opening up and the way that the pride of that. And then you start hearing about, the exciting possibility of everything that lined up last night with the candidates maybe that Auburn's looking at and the excitement of a coaching search. All those things were spearheaded by a belief and a passion and just loving that we cared again. Being excited to care again and be emotionally invested. And Cadillac was like a preacher, man. He was preaching. He was laying down the gospel, and all of us were believing.
Yeah, I'll put myself in the camp of I don't think a lot of people realize how much Brian Harsin did negatively to this program in such a short amount of time. And it's just everybody coming together. I mean, they were talking about it openly on the TV broadcast last night. Like, man, Brian Harsin really messed this up. Everybody's just glad he's gone. It's like, wow. It's just like everybody unanimously is like just accepting the fact of like how bad of a job he did. And so Carnell Williams offering a breath of fresh air. You're greeted with somebody with emotion that he cares about the program. And we just haven't had that. And he almost got it in Starkville last weekend. Fortunately, he got it Saturday night at home against Texas A&M. Still, this team lacks some pop offensively, right? Unless Tank Bigsby or Jarquez Hunter just beats two or three guys to the edge or makes some guys miss. It's like they're pretty limited when it comes down to it. But at home, you could tell the crowd was such a big factor. Several penalties, whether it were offsides early or delay of games, and pair that with Texas A&M isn't a good offensive football team. I think they're worse offensively than Auburn is. It resulted in a really good night, and it put yourself in a situation to win in the fourth quarter. And they didn't make it super easy. There were definitely some fumbles that were fortunate to go Auburn's way late.
Yes, there was.
Still, you found a way to win.
Yeah, I think it goes to show you that culture, even though it becomes such a cliche, you hear it and you hear it, it does matter, because what Auburn's doing X's and O's wise or schematically isn't much different than when they were doing 3 or 4 weeks ago. They're still struggling to execute. Robby Ashford is still struggling with touch and completing passes. The run game's gotten better because I think offensive linemen that should have been playing for a while are now playing. They got some dogs on the offensive line.
Jeremiah Wright not being a starter all year is the weirdest thing.
It's unbelievable. And then defensively, give Auburn a ton of credit. Now, again, A&M is anemic, but Auburn did a really good job the last couple of weeks causing turnovers, creating havoc. So it's not just X's and O's. I think it's grit, it's effort, it's culture. When you talk about damage, I think the previous coaching staff did as much damage off the field as they did on the field with culture and neglecting certain things. I think kids fed off that. Yeah. And that's why you're right. There was a lot of damage done. So X's and O's still have a lot of but you could, to me, you could tell the difference of having a couple extra days to prepare. I think game plan wise for Auburn tonight with Will Friend and I think Will Friend called a really, really good first half. I think he called a better game in the first half than Keesaw did all year, and the guy was here for a year and a half. So it goes to show you that buddy system and all that. It's just it wasn't working.
Crap. Yeah, it's crap. Those were coaches that should be at Boise State. They should be in the Mountain West, not in the SEC.
Exactly.
Right? And we knew that while it was happening. It's like, oh, well, maybe he knows something. Maybe it'll work out. And then obviously it didn't. So I think what he called in the second half was fine. The miss pass to Hunter, the wheel route, that was in the second half, right?
First half, I believe.
That wasn't the first half. I mean, that was a beautiful play call. That was
maybe it wasn't the second half, but it was wide open there. I mean, it was
a no doubt touchdown.
There. And then there were some plays that could have. Jarquez had a nice run around right end for about 26 yards. It got called back on a hold. I mean, there was some things schemed up. Just from a passing standpoint, the screen pass to Tank Bigsby in the first half went for big yardage. He put a nice touch on that. So yeah, you're right. Even in the second half, there was some play calling, but you don't know how that play calling may have been adjusted or affected in the second half. When Will Friend looked and said, "I don't think they're going to score twice on us. So why risk it? Why risk it? Adjust your play calling to get a little more conservative because your defense can win you this game."
Yeah, run the ball more, keep the clock rolling, and that's certainly what they did. I think Auburn's first 6 drives ended in Texas A&M territory, and it's like you only had 7 points to show for it. So there were some things that you needed to kind of close out on. McPherson missed his first kick. Didn't love that his first kick was a 54-yarder. I don't love that decision, but also it's like, what else are you going to do? You're going to not kick it, but didn't love that situation. But all in all, I feel very comfortable, Darrell, saying that Carnell Williams, a guy who has a week and a half of head coaching experience, outcoached the guy that's getting paid $100 million to be Texas A&M's head coach.
That's what's so unbelievable is that even the analysts kept saying, why do they keep running these offensive formations? Look at the 2x2. Kind of maybe have a Noah's Ark reference there. I can relate to that. 2x2. Look at this
animals all over that house.
Exactly. Jordan Rodgers was being openly critical and second guessing, going, why? And then they start talking about the offensive coordinators and how maybe that offensive philosophy has passed him by. What I think Cadillac has done is basically just delegated and said, okay, I'm going to let you make decisions with personnel. I'm going to let you make decisions with who you play on the offensive line, who you play in certain defensive packages. I'm going to let you guys coach. And then he seeks counsel. I think he asks people's opinion that are on the sidelines with him in certain situations. And then he goes to his gut. I'm with you. I didn't like the 54-yard field goal. You say, what can you do there? I'd have taken the delay of game and probably punted with the way Auburn's defense was playing, but and not giving A&M the short field. But I think that he seeks counsel. He's very humble, and he gets feedback, and then he processes that feedback. What he does is, I'm going to keep everybody up on the sidelines. I'm going to be the ultimate, rah-rah. I'm going to keep you up. I'm going to show you how much I care about you, and then I'm going to let these other coaches strategize and let them coach and not micromanage. And it's worked. I mean, Auburn could be 2-0 under his regime right now.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. And I think his demeanor, I think it reflects in his talk and the messaging that's coming out from the Auburn, official social media stuff. Serve. Little discipline in there, but he constantly talks about serving these guys in the locker room and serving the Auburn fan base. And it comes across with how he's handling everything so far. I think it's absolutely incredible.
You know why I think that's so important? And so it's such a clue and it's such a peel back the curtain. I think he is being so deliberate and so, purposeful in saying that because I feel like he feels the players were underserved under the previous regime. So that's why he keeps saying that to make up for and to compensate for, because he feels like they weren't served. Those players weren't served well before, and so he's going to overcompensate for that now.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that in just a moment, Darrell. An example where they were underserved and how he is riding the ship there. I wrote about it a little bit last week on the website. Did not talk about it on the podcast. But also, I want to ask the question. It was a big recruiting weekend for Auburn. If you were a recruit in that stadium Saturday night, how in the world do you not pick the Tigers? All that coming up in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Upside. Inflation has us all thinking about different ways to cut back, whether the cliche, do you go out to drive through and get a $4 or $5 coffee when you can make it at home? As you can see, I'm drinking one right now. Do you maybe order water when you go to a restaurant? Look, whether it's driving less or dining out less, buying less from the grocery store, we all agree that it's a time to cut back. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With Upside, it's a very easy-to-use app. You redeem an offer, you take a picture of the receipt, and then boom, you get cash back in your Get Upside account right there, and you can deposit. You can move it to your bank. You can get it in gift cards. You can get it in crypto. You can get it in any certain way possible. So check it out. It's super easy to use, and you can get real money back. Download the free Upside app. Use promo code LOCK to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back. All you have to do is use promo code LOCKED. Darrell Dapprich. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because I wrote about it on the site, but Carnell had a player's parents meeting, a big Zoom meeting, and one of the several things that he mentioned, sounds like it was about an hour long, but he kind of was pretty honest with the parents and said, hey, the previous situation did not really hold your kids accountable if they went to class or not. And he's like, that's changed. And then, the parent that I talked to that was in there called his son, and he was like, yeah, no, dad, that's true. But, they could all tell a big shift. And to me, that's just a little opposite of what I thought Brian Harsin would be. But it's just, you hear story after story after story, and it's like, man, I don't know how he didn't lose more guys to the portal. So props to Carnell with everything that he's been able to shift forward in the right direction in such a short amount of time.
Well, I think a couple things. We talked early on when Brian Harsin came. I remember at SEC Media Days in 2021, him talking about culture and accountability and kind of mocking the fact that he couldn't believe that players were coming late to meetings. I think the previous staff and Brian Harsin in particular wants you to be accountable and wants you to be disciplined in culture if it's just all about ball. But everything else outside of the periphery of football, recruiting, going to class, community relations, golf tournaments, foundations, all that extra stuff that I think is important, that guess what is serving, he could give two craps about. So it's again, I mentioned it in week
Such
3.
A breath of fresh air.
It's all hat, no cattle. I'm going to talk a big game. As far as transfer portal, remember when we were talking about week 3, week 4, we felt like they should have made a change, and that Cadillac could or whatever interim coach could create some excitement for recruits when they came back on campus and see the environment, see the love. Well, we're seeing that now. And thankfully, we're not seeing people entering the portal. When Cadillac got this job, there wasn't a mass exodus of people saying.
Well, I do want to add a caveat to that. They have 30 days. And so there's really no strategic advantage to enter until the end of that 30-day period.
They don't when you make a head coaching change. They can do it right then. Yeah, they have 30 days, but they don't have to wait until the first week of December to do it. They can do it right now. And wouldn't you say if you were disgruntled and upset that your boy went back to Idaho, that you would get in the portal right now? I mean,
I get what you're saying.
No one has.
I get what you're saying.
They can do it now.
We still may see people within 3 weeks do it. That's all I'm saying.
I thought the fear was there was going to be a mass exodus that happened right away because it opened up the gateway by firing your coach. You see what I'm saying? It takes away that loop. It gives you that loophole to do it right then and not wait when maybe you have an opportunity to talk a player into staying for a month. If you're a player right now, why would you not want to stay after what you're seeing,
Yeah, totally. No, and I think the way the window works is you could finish the season, then enter the portal. And if you do it within 30 days of getting fired, apparently, I didn't realize this, but this is what Rich McGlynn told the parents shortly after Harsin was fired, was that if you do it within 30 days, you can transfer for free, which I didn't realize that was a rule. I guess it is. I don't know why you would make that up. So that's why you may see it in 3 weeks. We'll see. But I don't know why a player would not be super stoked with everything that's happening right now. So, Darrell, in your mind, if you're a 4-star, 5-star, 3-star, whatever recruit, and you were at Jordan-Hare Stadium, because there were a lot of official visits and just unofficial visits this weekend. I mean, that stadium was like they were competing for an SEC West championship, and it was 2, 3, and 6 teams. It's like imagine when Auburn's back.
Yeah,
like,
that's
what
an
an easy pitch, right?
Yeah. Well, it's twofold. Number one, there were some sources and some people that got back to us that said that he was absolutely killing it with the recruits in the visit today. Mm-hmm. Absolutely killing it. And he's charismatic, and you are listening to him, and you are engrossed and locked in. And then he gave a little sneak peek of that to Cole Kubelik at the end of the game when he turned around and looked and said, why would you not want to come to Auburn? Auburn football is going to be back, and it's going to be fine. And that's the pitch that he is selling, in private moments, in closed doors, when he can talk to players and say, I was part of a team that went undefeated. If you think this environment is lit now, wait till Auburn's back competing for championships, and you can help do that as early as next year. That's the pitch. And it's not fake, and you can understand and relate to it because he's been there, done that. What he's telling you is genuine because he's experienced it. He's experienced the league. He's gone on to the NFL. He's experienced a phenomenal football season under Tommy Tuberville in 2004, and he's got the Auburn experience. You believe him because he's lived it.
I want to speculate what this means moving forward, Darrell, in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. This week's thrilling moment in college football is brought to you by Nissan. The thrilling designs behind the new lineup of Nissan are intended to empower drivers in vehicles as capable as the drivers themselves. When I think of unbelievable abilities on the field for this week's thrilling moment, I think it's bigger than what happened on the field. I think all of it just has to do with Cadillac leading this team. But if we had to pick a specific play, I'll talk about Javaris Johnson hauling in that touchdown pass early in the game. That was very, very thrilling, very, very exciting. So this segment's been inspired by the new thrilling designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. Available at nissanusa.com. Darrell, as far as moving forward, there are already a lot of Auburn fans that were saying Carnell Williams should be the next head coach.
Yeah.
I'm not in that boat.
No,
I don't think he should be. But I am more okay with it if that's the move that they're going. I've heard nothing to indicate that that's even being considered. But man, I'd do anything for that man. Like, I mean, it was incredible what he did, what he's doing.
Yeah, and in a short little snapshot, yeah, that's great. I don't think that Cadillac Williams should be the next Auburn head coach, and I love the guy to death. I think that when an interim gets that job, typically that interim's had head coaching experience before and is back on a staff, right? With a second win like Ed Orgeron.
Or it's been a guy like in waiting for a while.
A guy in waiting. And I think Cadillac would have had to really win out. I mean, to even entertain the thought, if he would have won his last 4, including the Iron Bowl, then you have to seriously say, well, what's this magic? But like with Clay Helton and Ed Orgeron, some of those guys, they got hot at the right time, but they had experience and they were head coaches in waiting. I don't think that's the case with Cadillac, and I think Cadillac's perfectly fine. He would have to really, really get some head coaching experience. Look, this job right now, Auburn has an opportunity that it hasn't had in decades. And that is, at the end of the day, on November 27th or whenever it is, Auburn will still be the premier coaching job in America. They have an opportunity with candidates that we've heard, that it's not just rumors. They're on all hot boards. All the media has kind of been in agreement with 4 candidates. Right. And any one of them would be a great choice. And they're all great hires. you have an opportunity to hit a home run, hit the home run. And it's not a slight on Cadillac, but
No.
that's not a home run hire. You have a chance.
I don't think Cadillac will be upset about it either.
No, I would definitely, like I said last week, keep him on staff because of what the ties and the connection he has, and from a recruiting standpoint, I think the connections and the relationships he's going to build from now until a new coach is named before early signing day is going to be absolutely imperative and so important to Auburn. And if you build that relationship, you need to keep him around after he's built those relationships.
All right, you got Western Kentucky coming up, the Marcus Bragg Bowl. That certainly should be a win. And then, leading into the Iron Bowl, it's going to be so fun because I think Alabama's beatable. I don't know if we can do it there, but I do think they're significantly more beatable than we ever thought they would be this season, despite them beating Ole Miss and Oxford on Saturday. But just a few other notes. Them putting all three running backs on the field at the same time in the first half. Oh my gosh. I loved that.
I did too. I thought, it gives you all kind of different options. And the first thing I thought of is you can go jet sweep with Alston. You can go between the tackles with Tank, or you could do either or with Hunter. And so it made Durkin have to think, what are they going to do here? Or is there going to be a swing pass out of the backfield?
Or with Robby, you could do option stuff.
You can do option stuff. Or you could take Jarquez on that wheel route that was wide open out of a 3-back set. There was a lot of great things, just like they did last week with the 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
The 3 tight ends really helped with run blocking. I mean, people think, you got 3 tight ends, you're going to throw to one of the 3. No. They put some packages in so they could get some push downfield, and it really worked. So I like trying different things. I like the kind of the backside pitch reverse that they did to Jarquez that he got big yards on. They did some different things that I thought were creative. Really didn't have an opportunity to throw the ball downfield. Didn't see any slants. Didn't see anything down the middle of the field.
The passing game was bad. The passing game was not great. More passing numbers here. 6 of 13.
Yeah.
For 60 yards passing for Robby.
Ran it for 285. And amazing to me that if my stats are right, Hunter and Bigsby both ran for the exact same amount of yards, 121
each.
Yep. 121 apiece. That's pretty stinking balanced right there, right? You talk about balance. I like that kind. If you can, that's the key. Auburn had more time of possession. They had more first downs. They had more total yards, and they absolutely gashed them running the ball, even when A&M made their adjustments in the second half. If Auburn, again, stop me if you've heard this before, isn't on the -2 side of the turnover ledger, that could be a 3-score game.
Yeah, you're right. And for a moment there, we thought Auburn was going to be down in the turnover battle 4-0.
Yeah.
What a crazy, fluky thing to happen. I was kind of getting on to Shedrick Jackson for not getting on that ball after Jarquez fumbled it. On Twitter, I was like, how does Shed not get on that ball? The lack of body control is crazy. But he slid past it, and he slid past it just enough where he was stretched out.
He kept the hand on it. Yeah, kept the hand on the ball while his right hand was out of bounds.
Yeah.
Now, Tank, let's be fair. I mean, one thing I always want to do is be transparent, and I can't be, if we talk about Auburn getting shafted on calls, Tank Bigsby fumbled that football, and Auburn got a huge break. Yeah. Unless they're saying his momentum and forward progress was stopped, but there was no knee down. And for Jimbo to not call timeout and to not challenge that and let Auburn rush up to the line of scrimmage.
Jimbo is so checked out of this season.
He really is disconnected, isn't he?
He did not want to be there.
He seems so disconnected. He really does. He's that's a great word. He's checked out. He's going through the motions. He's disconnected. And I don't know if he thinks that, look, I'm playing a lot of freshmen. I've got a tremendous recruiting class. I'm going to go get me a stud quarterback in the portal, and I will be back next year. And he's just counting this as a lost season. I don't know. Well, he definitely is checked out.
I mean, they were in championship or bust mode, and they're 3-7 now.
Worst team in the SEC West. Worst team in the West, in last in the West right now. And everybody thought they were going to be challenging Alabama for Western.
Are they last in the SEC right now since Vandy won?
Well, they both have one SEC victory. A&M beat.
So they both be 1-6. Yeah.
Didn't A&M beat Arkansas? I believe. Yeah, they did. So they're both 1-6. Yep.
Hilarious.
It is.
I love that Caddy outcoached him. Like there is not one part of that I just do not absolutely freaking love.
Yeah, he really did. And I'll tell you, we talked about that Nissan moment. For me, the honorable mention would have to be the Colby strip sack from behind. I know that Johnson's score put them up 7-0, but to me, that allowed them to get the points that put the game away. And look how big those points ended up being, because A&M went right down the field and made it 13-10. To me, when Wooden made that sack and Joseph fell on the ball, and by the way, the ESPN announcer's name is Morris Joseph, not Joseph Morris. I don't know where you're reading your roster there, dude, but Tom, the Hart guy. But anyway, that was a huge play. And that to me is the first time all night that I kind of sighed and thought, we're going to get points out of this. And just a field goal with the way Auburn's defense was playing, I didn't think A&M was even going to get one score in a minute 50. And they did. I mean, they went down the field and they had some big runs. But that, to me, sealed it because it let Auburn kick the field goal that ultimately put it out of reach.
Yeah, you and I were texting during the game, and I'm like, if they're not going to score twice. And I was shocked they were going to score once, to be honest with you.
They had short fields. The field goal, they went -3 yards, and then they kicked the field goal. I mean, when they made it 10-3, and then the last drive. Here's the other thing that if I'm an A&M fan, I am extremely upset about. Against South Carolina and against Auburn, when A&M went tempo and went fast, they were very successful. They scored 2 touchdowns against South Carolina going tempo, and you saw what they did against Auburn going tempo. Now, some of that could have been that Auburn went prevent and changed defensively and that kind of thing. But in 2 games, South Carolina and Auburn, when A&M went tempo, they were very, very successful. And it's kind of like our favorite NFL teams. It happened all the time when I was watching the Steelers. They'd go no huddle, and I'm like, where's this been all game? And they score 14. I'm like, why not do this all game? If you can be successful with tempo, why he didn't, I don't understand it. Like you said, the explanation checked out.
Darrell, and this will be better for the YouTube viewers, not the audio listeners, but we will describe it and read it to you. But Twitter page, NCAA Nation, tweet out this graphic. I just grabbed it to put up here. It's got Cadillac and Jimbo next to each other, and it's got Cadillac $400,000 salary and Jimbo $9 million salary. I love it.
Well, that's not the first time that it is. I mean, that's the second time he's got beat by a coach probably making less than $1 million, because I don't think Appalachian State's coach makes more than $1 million. So
you're probably right.
And that's when you could kind of see. But this night was all about Auburn and finally having something to feel good about, to believe in, to get behind. It had been such a dark, dark wilderness. And even last week, it was painful because we cared, and it was like right there for the taking. There was a pride factor, but it was like, oh man, Auburn could have won that game. And it still was a little bit disappointing, but it built from that. And so what we got tonight was a payoff of all week. And, it was a weird feeling that we all had all week. And there was just a lot of people that just felt, including Vegas, that Auburn was going to win the game. And that's just, a 3-6 team.
It was like 2.5. And it's like, well, they won by 3.
It felt like, the Auburn teams of the past when you're like, oh, they should win this game. And they do. And that's kind of what this felt like tonight.
Darrell, how can people find you and support you and all that stuff, buddy?
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter at DAP6410. Also, Monday mornings on WANI, Good Morning Auburn Opelika with our good friend Ben Taylor from about 7:10 to 7:30. We talk all things sports. We've talked baseball, we've talked Auburn, we've talked all kind of stuff. So check it out at that time as well.
Absolutely. For me, you can read all my written work at auburndaily.com, and we'll be back tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.